Let me tell you about the worst career decision I ever made. And trust me, that's saying something, considering I once tried to capture a Venusian slime beast with nothing but a fishing net and questionable life choices. My name is Zara Vex, and I'm what you might generously call a freelance acquisition specialist. What everyone else calls a bounty hunter who specializes in grabbing exotic creatures for the galaxy's most pretentious restaurants. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But hey, a girl's got to eat, and the Galactic Credit Union doesn't care about your moral flexibility as long as you make your payments on time. So there I was, sitting in my ship, the Lucky Strike, staring at the most ridiculous contract I'd ever seen. The client was some high-end restaurant chain called Luxari's Finest, and they wanted me to capture something called a human from a backwater planet called Earth. Apparently, these humans were the new must of delicacy among the ultra-wealthy. The kind of beings who think eating sentient creatures makes them sophisticated instead of just, sociopathic. The pay was obscene. 600,000 credits for one measly human. I mean, I've captured Rigelian warhawks for less, and those things have 3 sets of teeth and a personal vendetta against anything that moves. The briefing file was laughably thin. Humans were described as bipedal, soft-skinned mammals with limited defensive capabilities and primitive technology. The intelligence report made them sound about as threatening as a particularly aggressive houseplant. No natural weapons, no armor plating, no venom sacs. Just pink, squishy things that apparently made excellent appetizers. I'll admit, the whole eating sentient beings thing made my stomach turn a little. But then I remembered my family's debt to the Nexus Mining Consortium, and suddenly my conscience got a lot quieter. Funny how impending financial ruin can make you flexible on the whole morality thing. The plan was simple. Drop down to Earth, grab the first human I could find, and be back in hyperspace before anyone knew I was there. In and out, clean and easy. The kind of job you could do in your sleep. Earth turned out to be this cute little blue marble orbiting a yellow star. Lots of water, which explained why the humans were so soft. The whole planet looked like a vacation resort, if vacation resorts were populated by primitive mammals who hadn't even figured out faster-than-light travel yet. I picked a landing spot near what my scanners identified as a mechanical repair facility in the middle of the night. Perfect. Isolated location, minimal witnesses, and humans were supposedly diurnal, so whoever was there would be groggy and confused. Like taking candy from a baby, if babies were worth 600,000 credits and you had severe ethical blind spots. I prepped my stun net and neural inhibitor, checked my translator implant, and headed for the exit ramp. This was going to be the easiest money I'd ever made. Famous last words, right? As I approached the facility, I could hear the sound of metal on metal echoing from inside. Someone was working late, which was actually perfect for my purposes. Nothing like a tired, distracted target to make your job easier. I peered through a grimy window and saw my first human. And that's when everything started going spectacularly wrong. The human inside the garage was not what I expected. The briefing had mentioned they were soft and defenseless, but nobody had bothered to mention they could apparently disassemble complex machinery with their bare hands while cursing in at least 3 different languages. She was average height for her species, with dark hair tied back and wearing what looked like work clothing covered in various mechanical fluids. Maya Rodriguez, according to the name stitched on her coveralls. She was currently engaged in what appeared to be mortal combat with some kind of wheeled vehicle, and from the sound of her muttered commentary, the vehicle was winning. Perfect. A distracted, tired human working alone. This was going to be like taking candy from a baby, if babies were worth 600,000 credits and carried power tools. I activated my stealth field and slipped through the door. The plan was simple: neural inhibitor to the back of the neck. She goes to sleep, I carry her to my ship, and by morning I'm halfway to the Andromeda sector counting my money. I was 3 steps away when she spun around and threw a wrench at my head. Now my stealth field is military grade. It bends light, muffles sound, and can fool sensors worth more than most planets' GDP. But apparently nobody told Maya Rodriguez about that, because she nailed me right between the eyes with surgical precision. "What the hell?" she shouted, grabbing what looked like some kind of plasma cutter. "Who are you and why are you shimmering like a bad special effect?" My stealth field flickered and died. So much for the element of surprise. "Greetings, human," I said, trying to sound professional while blood dripped from my nose. "I am Zaravex, and you have been selected for a special opportunity." "Selected for what now?" Maya brandished the plasma cutter like she actually knew how to use it. Which, considering the precision of that wrench throw, she probably did. "Relocation to a luxury dining establishment where you will be providing cultural enrichment to discerning clientele." Maya stared at me for a long moment. Then she started laughing. Not the nervous laughter of someone who was terrified, but the genuine amusement of someone who had just heard the best joke of their life. "Lady, I don't know what planet you're from, but if you think I'm going anywhere with someone who just tried to sneak up on me with a disco ball camouflage suit, you're even crazier than you look. I wasn't trying to disco ball. My stealth technology is state-of-the-art." "State-of-the-art on what planet?" "The 1970s? That's when she turned on the plasma cutter. Now, I've faced down Centaurian death worms and lived to tell about it. I've outfought pirates in 3 different star systems. But something about the way Maya Rodriguez held that plasma cutter made me take a step back. "Look," I said, reaching for my neural inhibitor, "this doesn't have to be difficult. Just come quietly and nobody gets hurt." "Nobody gets hurt?" Maya's eyes narrowed. "Buddy, you just broke into my shop in the middle of the night talking about relocating me to some dining establishment. In my experience, that's usually code for something that ends with me being very hurt indeed." She was right, of course. But I needed that money. I lunged forward with the neural inhibitor. Maya sidestepped like she'd been expecting it, grabbed my wrist, and used my own momentum to send me crashing into a workbench. Tools scattered everywhere, and something that looked suspiciously like a miniature fusion reactor went skittering across the floor. "Okay, that's it," Maya said, advancing on me with the plasma cutter. "Time for some answers. What do you want with me?" I rolled away just as she triggered the cutter, leaving a smoking hole in the concrete floor where my head had been a second earlier. "You're supposed to be defenseless," I shouted, scrambling behind an engine block. "Defenseless? Honey, I rebuild hyperspace engines for a living. You think I don't know how to handle myself?" "Wait, hyperspace engines? That was impossible. According to my briefing, humans hadn't even achieved faster than light travel yet." "That's impossible," I said. "Your species doesn't have hyperspace technology. Tell that to the Arcturus Shipping Consortium. They pay me very well to keep their engines running." Maya was still advancing, and I was running out of places to hide. Time for Plan B. Unfortunately, I'd never actually come up with a Plan B. I made a desperate grab for my stun net, but Maya was faster. She caught the edge of it with some kind of magnetic grappler and yanked it out of my hands. Then she did something with a power coupling that I'm pretty sure violated several laws of physics. The net exploded in a shower of sparks, taking out half the lights in the garage. "Oops," Maya said, not sounding sorry at all. That's when the real disaster struck. The explosion had caught the edge of my ship's landing gear, and I watched in horror as the Lucky Strike tilted, sparked, and settled into the concrete with a grinding crash. We both stared at the wreckage in stunned silence. "Well," Maya said finally, "I guess we're both stuck here now." 3 hours later, we were both elbow deep in the Lucky Strike's engine compartment, and I was seriously reconsidering my life choices. Again. "Hand me that quantum spanner," Maya said, her voice muffled by the engine housing. "The what now?" "The shiny thing that looks like it was designed by someone who thought regular physics was more of a suggestion." I found the tool she was talking about and passed it over. Maya had been surprisingly cooperative once she realized that my ship crashing meant we were both stuck until we could fix it. Apparently, humans had this weird thing about helping people, even people who had recently tried to kidnap them. So Maya said, making some kind of adjustment that caused the entire engine to hum in a way it definitely hadn't before, "You're really an alien bounty hunter. Freelance acquisition specialist." I corrected automatically. "Right. And you were hired to kidnap me so some rich aliens could eat me." When she put it like that, it sounded pretty awful. "It's just business," I said weakly. Maya poked her head out of the engine compartment and gave me a look that could have melted tungsten. "Business. Right. Just out of curiosity, what's the going rate for a human these days?" 600,000 credits. Maya whistled. Damn, I know I'm good with engines, but I didn't think I was worth that much. What makes humans so special anyway? According to the briefing, you're exotic, rare, and apparently you taste good with the right seasoning. Exotic. Maya shook her head. You know what's really exotic? Trying to make a living as an independent mechanic when half the shipping companies in the sector are trying to undercut your prices with automated systems. She had a point. I'd been so focused on the bounty that I hadn't really thought about Maya as, well, a person. Someone with bills to pay and dreams and probably a whole life that didn't involve being served as an appetizer to pretentious aliens. Why do you do it? Maya asked, going back to work on the engine. The bounty hunting thing, I mean. I could have lied. Should have lied, probably. But something about the way she asked, like she actually cared about the answer, made me tell the truth. Debt, I said. My family's homeworld got strip-mined by the Nexus Consortium. They left us with nothing but a bill for environmental restoration services that we'll never be able to pay off. So I became a bounty hunter, because it was the only job that paid enough to keep them from selling my little sister into indentured servitude. Maya stopped working and looked at me. Really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. How old is your sister? 12 standard years. And they'd really sell a 12-year-old into slavery? Indentured servitude, I corrected. Totally different. Or legal paperwork. Maya made a sound that was half laugh, half growl. Yeah, we have something similar here. We call it corporate exploitation. And it's just as ugly no matter what you call it. We worked in silence for a while after that. Maya showed me how to recalibrate the quantum flux inhibitors, which was apparently something humans learned in basic technical training. I helped her realign the hyperspace field generators, which was something that usually required a team of specialist engineers. You know, Maya said eventually, for a species that's supposedly primitive, you guys seem to know your way around advanced technology. We're resourceful, Maya said with a shrug. Humans have this thing where we look at impossible problems and think, hold my beer. I've got an idea. Hold your beer? No. It's an expression. Means we're about to do something stupid and dangerous that will probably work. That actually explained a lot about human behavior. As we worked, Maya told me about her life. How she'd started fixing engines when she was 8 years old, helping her father in his shop. How she'd worked her way up from changing oil on atmospheric craft to rebuilding hyperspace drives for interstellar shipping companies. How she dreamed of one day designing her own starship and exploring the galaxy. It was a good dream. The kind of dream that deserved a chance to come true. And I was supposed to end it so some rich alien could have an exotic dinner. Maya, I said, about the whole kidnapping thing. Yeah? I'm starting to think it might not be such a good idea. Maya looked up from the engine compartment. A smear of coolant across her cheek and a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Vex, she said, I think that might be the smartest thing you've said all night. That's when the scanner started beeping. Multiple ships, dropping out of hyperspace directly overhead. The Luxari Syndicate had come to collect their order. Well, Maya said, wiping her hands on a rag as we watched 3 massive ships descend from the night sky, I'm guessing those aren't here for the free coffee and donuts. The ships were sleek, predatory things that looked like they'd been designed by someone with serious anger management issues. They settled onto the concrete outside Maya's garage with the kind of precision that spoke of military training and unlimited budgets. Those are Luxari corporate security vessels, I said, my stomach sinking. High-end enforcement for high-end clients. Let me guess, Maya said. They're here because you missed your delivery deadline. Something like that. The lead ship's airlock cycled open, and out stepped Vex Kronos himself. I'd only seen him in holograms before, but in person he was somehow even more intimidating. 8 feet tall, with chitinous black armor and mandibles that looked like they could bite through steel. Behind him came a squad of Luxari enforcers, all carrying weapons that were definitely not legal in civilized space. Vex, Kronos called out, his voice carrying easily across the distance between us. You missed your delivery window. Traffic was terrible, I called back, trying to sound casual while frantically looking for an escape route. Kronos clicked his mandibles in what I think was supposed to be laughter. No matter. We decided to handle the acquisition personally. And what fortune we find you've already located our merchandise. Merchandise. That's what Maya was to them. Not a person with dreams and skills and a life worth living. Just merchandise. The contract specified 1 human, I said. I haven't completed the capture yet. Again, no matter. Kronos gestured to his enforcers, who began spreading out to surround the garage. We'll take the merchandise and be on our way. Your services are no longer required. Maya stepped up beside me, and I could feel the tension radiating off her like heat from an engine. Merchandise? She said quietly. Standard Luxari terminology, Kronos said, apparently having heard her. Don't worry, little creature. Your new purpose will be much more meaningful than whatever primitive existence you've been living here. My new purpose? You're going to be food for the galaxy's most discerning palates. Quite an honor, really. Most beings never achieve such significance. Maya looked at Kronos for a long moment. Then she looked at me. Then she started laughing again, but this time it was the kind of laughter that made my scales stand on end. Food, she said. You want to turn me into food? The finest restaurants in known space are competing for the privilege, Kronos said proudly. While Maya said, that's just fascinating. Tell me something, bug boy. What makes you think I'm just going to go quietly? Kronos tilted his head, mandibles clicking in confusion. You're a primitive mammal with no natural defenses. What choice do you have? Maya smiled, and it was not a nice smile. I have this choice. She pressed something on her wrist, and every piece of machinery in the garage suddenly roared to life. Hydraulic lifts slammed into the ceiling. Welding arms began firing plasma bolts in random directions. The fusion reactor that had been sitting on her workbench started glowing ominously. And somewhere in the chaos I heard the distinctive whine of charging weapons systems. What is this? Kronos shouted over the mechanical chaos. This, Maya called back, is what happens when you threaten a human with a fully equipped machine shop and a really bad attitude. The Luxari enforcers tried to advance through the mechanical mayhem, but Maya had turned her entire workspace into a death trap. Robotic arms swatted at them like angry insects. Conveyor belts tried to drag them into industrial recyclers. And through it all, Maya danced between the machines like she'd choreographed the whole thing. Which, knowing Maya, she probably had. Impressive, Kronos said, seemingly unbothered by the chaos, but ultimately futile. He raised one clawed hand, and I saw the neural disruptor built into his palm begin to glow. Military grade, designed to incapacitate entire crowds. Maya would be unconscious before she knew what hit her. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was watching Maya fight for her freedom with nothing but scrap metal and stubborn determination. Maybe it was realizing that I'd spent so long being a victim of corporate exploitation that I'd started working for the exploiters. Or maybe it was just that I really didn't like Kronos' attitude. Whatever it was, I found myself jumping between Maya and the neural disruptor, just as it fired. The blast hit me square in the chest, and everything went black. The last thing I heard was Maya screaming my name. I woke up in a cage. Not just any cage, mind you. This was a deluxe Luxari containment unit, complete with neural suppressors, energy barriers, and what appeared to be a 5-star catering menu taped to the outside. Apparently, when you're planning to eat someone, presentation matters. Maya was in the cage next to mine, also unconscious but breathing steadily. We were in the cargo hold of one of the Luxari ships, surrounded by other cages containing what I assumed were more exotic delicacies from around the galaxy. The whole place smelled like antiseptic and despair. My head felt like someone had used it for target practice with a plasma cannon, which was probably not far from the truth. The neural disruptors weren't exactly gentle. "Ah, you're awake," came Kronos' voice from somewhere above me. Excellent. I was hoping to have a word before we reached our destination. I looked up to see him standing on a catwalk overlooking the cargo hold, still looking smug despite the fact that Maya had turned half his enforcers into abstract art with her improvised death trap. "Let me guess," I said, testing the strength of the cage bars. "You're going to monologue about your evil plan before you kill me." Kill you? Oh, my dear Zara, you misunderstand. You're far too valuable to kill. That didn't sound good. You see, Kronos continued, beginning to pace along the catwalk. Your little display of conscience back there was quite illuminating. Here you are, a professional bounty hunter, willing to sacrifice yourself for a piece of merchandise you were hired to acquire. Such loyalty. Such dedication. Get to the point, Kronos. The point is that humans appear to inspire this kind of devotion in other species, which makes them even more valuable than we initially thought. Maya stirred in her cage, groaning softly as she came around. Her eyes found mine immediately, and I saw anger there. Good. Angry Maya was dangerous Maya. Not just as food, Kronos was saying, but as psychological weapons. Imagine the leverage we'd have if we could inspire that kind of loyalty in our employees. No more costly security measures, no more workers' rebellions. Just complete, voluntary dedication. You want to weaponize human empathy, I said, the full horror of his plan sinking in. We want to franchise it. Humans stationed throughout the galaxy inspiring loyalty in our workforce while serving as exotic cuisine for our most valued clients. It's perfect synergy. Maya had fully awakened now, and was examining her cage with the focused attention of someone planning either an escape or a murder. Possibly both. Either. There's just one problem with your plan, I said, trying to keep Kronos' attention focused on me. Oh? And what's that? You're assuming humans will cooperate. Kronos clicked his mandibles in amusement. My dear Zara, humans are just mammals. With the right incentives, any mammal can be trained. That's when Maya spoke up for the first time since waking up. Hey, bug boy, she said conversationally. Well, Kronos turned to look at her. Yes, little creature? You know what the difference is between mammals and insects? Enlighten me. Maya smiled that same dangerous smile I'd seen in her garage. Mammals learn from their mistakes. She held up a small device that I recognized as a hyperspace field generator. Somehow, she'd managed to remove it from the ship's drive system while unconscious and trapped in a cage designed to hold professional criminals. I really needed to stop underestimating humans. That's impossible, Kronos said. The neural suppressors should prevent you from using any technology. Yeah, about that, Maya said, examining the device with professional interest. Your neural suppressors are designed for species that interface with technology through mental commands. Humans use our hands. She made an adjustment to the field generator, and the lights in the cargo hold began to flicker. What are you doing? Kronos demanded. Something stupid and dangerous that will probably work, Maya said. You know, human stuff. The hyperspace field generator began to whine, a sound that made my scales itch. Kronos apparently recognized it too, because he started shouting orders at his crew. Stop her. Shut down the hyperdrive. Can't do that from up there, bug boy, Maya called back. You'd have to come down here and take this away from me personally. It was a dare, and we all knew it. Kronos could have his people try to shoot the device out of Maya's hands, but in a cargo hold full of exotic creatures and volatile technology, any missed shot could cause a disaster. He could flood the hold with knockout gas, but that would risk damaging his valuable merchandise. Or he could come down and face Maya personally. Kronos chose option 3. He decided to be clever. Very well, he said, drawing what looked like a military-grade disintegrator. I'll simply vaporize you and find another human. That's when I reminded him why I'd been the most successful bounty hunter in 3 sectors. The cage locks were electronic, designed to respond to authorized biometric signatures. What they weren't designed for was someone who'd spent years learning how to break into places she wasn't supposed to be. I popped the lock just as Kronos pulled the trigger, rolling out of the cage and tackling him off the catwalk in one smooth motion. We hit the deck hard, but I'd had more practice at crash landings. While Kronos was still trying to figure out which way was up, I relieved him of his disintegrator and used it to free Maya. Nice timing, she said, stepping out of her cage with the field generator still humming in her hands. Nice work with the hyperdrive sabotage, I replied. Oh, I'm not sabotaging it, Maya said cheerfully. I'm overcharging it. The whining sound was getting louder, and now the whole ship was starting to vibrate. What does that mean? I asked, though I was pretty sure I didn't want to know. It means we have about 3 minutes before this ship tears itself apart at the subatomic level. Kronos chose that moment to recover from our impromptu wrestling match. He was not happy. "You've doomed us all," he shrieked, lunging for Maya with his claws extended. I shot him with his own disintegrator. Not to kill, just to remind him that I was still armed and increasingly irritated. 2 minutes, Maya announced. We ran. AC. 6 months later, I was sitting in what used to be Maya's garage, watching her explain quantum mechanics to a delegation of Centaurian ambassadors while simultaneously rebuilding their diplomats' personal transport. The sign outside read Rodriguez Vex Interspecies Defense and Cultural Exchange, and which sounded much more professional than two women who accidentally started an intergalactic revolution. The key to understanding human engineering, Maya was saying, her hands never stopping their work on the transport's engine, is that we don't let theoretical impossibilities stop us from building things that work. The lead Centaurian, Ambassador Quelix, nodded sagely. And this is why your species has achieved such remarkable technological advancement in such a short time. And we're too stubborn to admit when something can't be done, Maya replied. I had to smile at that. Maya's stubborn refusal to accept the impossible had saved both our lives during our escape from Kronos' ship. While I'd been trying to find the escape pods, she'd been hot-wiring the ship's emergency systems to create an impromptu hyperspace lifeboat out of spare parts and sheer bloody-mindedness. We'd made it back to Earth just ahead of the ship's destruction, along with enough evidence of the Luxari's plans to convince Earth's governments that they needed to take the alien threat seriously. Maya had become humanity's first interstellar defense consultant, while I'd found myself in the unexpected role of alien cultural liaison. Turns out my years as a bounty hunter had given me extensive knowledge of galactic criminal organizations, corporate exploitation schemes, and which species to avoid at all costs. Earth's defense forces found this information remarkably valuable. MS Vex Ambassador Quelix said, turning to me, my government is prepared to offer you the contract we discussed. The Nexus mining protection detail? I asked. Indeed. They've been targeting Centaurian colonies with the same strip mining operations they used on your homeworld. We need someone with your expertise to help us stop them. I looked at Maya, who gave me an encouraging nod. Over the past 6 months, she'd become remarkably good at reading my expressions. I'll take the job, I said, but I have conditions. Name them. First, Maya comes with me as technical consultant. Second, any displaced populations get full relocation assistance and compensation. And third, Nexus pays back every credit they stole from their victims, starting with my family. Quelix's mandibles clicked in what I'd learned was the Centaurian equivalent of a smile. Agreed. It seems humans have taught you well. After the Centaurians left, Maya and I sat in the garage, sharing a beer and watching the sunset through the open bay doors. It had become our evening ritual, a chance to decompress after another day of accidentally changing the galaxy. So Maya said, Centaurus Prime, that should be interesting. You don't have to come, I said. You've got a good thing going here. Maya laughed. Are you kidding? I've spent my whole life dreaming about exploring the galaxy, and now I get to do it while sticking it to corporate exploiters and protecting innocent people. This is literally my dream job. Even if it means leaving Earth? Zara, 6 months ago my biggest concern was whether I could afford to upgrade my diagnostic equipment. Now I'm helping to design humanity's first interstellar defense fleet. I think I can handle a little travel. She had a point. In the 6 months since our encounter with Kronos, Maya had become something of a celebrity in both human and alien circles. Her innovative approach to engineering had revolutionized several fields, while her natural ability to understand and relate to other species had made her invaluable as a cultural bridge between humans and the wider galaxy. Besides, Maya continued, someone needs to keep you out of trouble. I don't get into trouble, I protested. Maya raised an eyebrow and gestured around the garage, which still bore scorch marks from our first encounter. Okay, fine, I admitted. I get into trouble. But it's usually profitable trouble. Usually? Sometimes. Occasionally. Look, the point is, we make a good team. Maya clinked her beer bottle against mine. Ellie, the best. Who would have thought that a human mechanic and an alien bounty hunter would end up saving the galaxy? We haven't saved it yet, I pointed out. No, but we've made a good start. And honestly, after dealing with Kronos and his corporate overlords, how hard can the rest of the galaxy be? I was about to answer when my comm unit chimed with an incoming message. The sender ID made my blood run cold. What is it? Maya asked, seeing my expression. Message from the Andromeda sector, I said slowly. Apparently there's been a development in the Luxari case. I opened the message and read it aloud. Zara Vex and Maya Rodriguez. My name is Admiral Thex of the Galactic Justice Coalition. We have reason to believe that Vex Kronos survived the destruction of his ship and has been building a new criminal empire based on enslaving species with strong empathetic capabilities. We need your help. Maya and I looked at each other for a long moment. Well, she said finally, I guess we know what our next job is. Yep, I finished my beer and stood up. Want to go save the galaxy for real this time? Maya grinned and grabbed her toolkit. Wouldn't miss it for the world. As we headed for my ship, newly repaired and upgraded with Maya's improvements, I couldn't help but reflect on how much my life had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been a cynical bounty hunter working for the same kind of corporate scum that had destroyed my family's world. Now I was part of something bigger, something that actually mattered. I'd come to Earth to capture a human for food. Instead, I'd found a partner, a purpose, and maybe even a way to make the galaxy a little less awful for everyone trying to survive in it. Not bad for someone who was supposed to be just another piece of merchandise. Hey Zara, Maya called out as she climbed into the co-pilot's seat. Yeah? No. Thanks for not eating me. I laughed, firing up the engines as Earth fell away beneath us. Thanks for not letting me. And with that, we jumped to hyperspace, ready to tackle whatever the galaxy could throw at us next. Together. After all, we were just stubborn enough to think we could actually pull it off.